Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. It is Monday, January the 26th. I hope everyone's having a fine Monday afternoon. Sorry for the last couple days of last week. Was away for some personal reasons, and we're back. So yeah, gonna do a show Thursday, Friday. Probably gonna be more of that coming up here. My wife and I are expecting our second child here any day now, so good chance the charts and the show are put on hold for at least a couple days here, sometime in the next 2 weeks. So just if you want to stay up to date on all things DFO DFS. Join the Discord, and I'll keep you posted in there on when the charts will be posted, when they will be back, when they do eventually pause. So yeah, just good way to stay informed there. Another way to stay informed is dailyfaceout.com. So thanks for tuning in. And as always, for using the website, we appreciate it. No Zach Lang today. Zach is busy on Mondays, so I run solo on Mondays. Luckily, today we got a 4-game slate on our hands. It was supposed to be a 5-game slate, but Elvis Merzlikins, Darcy Kemper, the Blue Jackets LA Kings game was postponed due to some crazy weather. I don't live too far from Ohio, and we had a lot of snow yesterday. So wishing everybody up there some safety in these extreme conditions these days. It wasn't too crazy here. I don't know what Ohio got, but let's get into tonight's slate. We should get confirmation on this Rangers starting goalie sometime around 5 o'clock. But I don't think it matters all that much the way Jonathan Quick has played as of late, and Spencer Martin's looked okay. So probably doesn't change things too much. Jonas Corposalo will go for the Boston Bruins. He's been fantastic. Has not lost in January. Sam Harrison, ever since we said Sam Harrison's terrible and the Vegas Golden Knights are going to murder him last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, last week, I think, he's been playing pretty well. He'll get started again for the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. It's going to be Ilya Sorokin for the Islanders. Unclear who starts for the Lightning or the Mammoth, but it should almost certainly be Vasilevsky versus Vamelkin, what should be a very fun hockey game between two very good hockey clubs. The Edmonton Oilers will go with Tristan Jarry tonight. The Ducks are expected to go with Ville Husso in the second half of a back-to-back. Earliest start here in Edmonton. So, slate first 3 games are all at 7. Then you got an 8:30 start in Edmonton tonight. We'll start with this Rangers and Bruins game this evening. It is the last 2 times these 2 teams met, which is 2 weeks ago, right? And Boston Bruins won that game. What was it, 10-3? If I recall correctly, there was multiple hat tricks in that game. Sorry, 10-2 on January 10th. I imagine the Rangers did not enjoy that, and they're probably going to be looking to exact some revenge this evening. Pretty even game here. The Rangers much worse at 5v5, but maybe a little bit better on the special teams. So, I think the Bruins will certainly have a 5v5 advantage tonight. The matchups actually don't look too bad on paper for the New York Rangers. The problem is, outside of the Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, Alexis Lafreniere line, they're really not getting a whole lot of offense from the other 3 lines. The JT Miller, Mika Zibanejad line has found some success offensively, 5.3 actual goals for per 60, but they've really generated nothing, and it's not something that you can really hang your hat on tonight. So when you're looking at the matchups tonight, 74% matchup score for the top line of the Rangers. They're going to see about half their ice time against the top line, and then the other 50% against the second and third line. I think that they should find some success against this Elias Lindholm, Morgan Geeky, David Pastrnak line, which has been basically average offensively, but have struggled a little bit defensively this season. So if anybody's going to get the job done for the New York Rangers, which has been very difficult for them to find much offensive success ever, but particularly at home, it has been a struggle bus for them. It is probably this top line. Panarin's up to 8K. He is going to see a pretty considerable amount of ownership tonight, as will Trocheck and Lafreniere, but so will Zibanejad and Miller. And I feel a little bit more comfortable fading that second line at their ownership and maybe applying some of that ownership to try to get over the field here on New York 1. But even their ownership is a little suspect, just given how much this offense has struggled. But when you take a look at these other 2 games, I don't anticipate Philadelphia and the Islanders being a super high scoring affair. You take a look here, both teams are very good offensively, but both teams are just outstanding defensively here in this Tampa Utah game. And then obviously the Oilers are going to be expected to carry the load offensively on tonight's slate. So when you look at the whole slate, I do think it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about getting to the Rangers, but it doesn't feel like the most comfortable chalk. So I don't mind this top line. The second line, I do feel a little bit less comfortable getting to about 10% of them or seeing, eating some of that ownership. But with that being said, they do have the number 1 power play advantage on the slate tonight as well. The Bruins also one of the more undisciplined teams in the league, and very, very bad on the PK. So the Rangers have found some success on the power play. You think that that could be like kind of the saving grace here for like a guy like Mika Zibanejad or JT Miller. And I think it could be certainly, like, obviously they're not complete cross offs tonight, but to me, I just feel better about, it just makes me feel better at least about Trocheck, Panarin, and Gavrikov. Gavrikov should be, a very high owned defenseman tonight, playing huge minutes with Adam Fox and some of their other, Carson Soucy's going to sit tonight. Like, there's a lot going on here on the Rangers blue line, and it just means more minutes for Gavrikov. So he's going to be popular tonight without question, but does make me feel pretty good about getting to Trocheck, Panarin, second highest owned defenseman for Gavrikov tonight, but 26 minutes at $4,300. It's easy to see why. So yeah, that's kind of how I view the New York Rangers side of this game. I feel much more confident in the top line than I do the second line just because of the underlying metrics. The matchup's a little bit better, but I do think that Zibanejad and Miller could get there, but it's going to have to come via the power play for sure. On the Boston side of things, yeah, the matchups here are not great, but the goaltending has really not been very good for the New York Rangers. The problem with the Bruins is they are a little difficult to trust because they do score at a pretty good clip, and they just scored 10 against this Rangers team not that long ago. So you want to probably get some exposure here. It's just very difficult to be like feel super confident with kind of just these very pedestrian offensive ratings. The Rangers, as a whole, grade out pretty good defensively in terms of what their actual line combos look like. But then when you look at the weighted team ratings here, 26 in 5v5 XG, the Bruins top 10. It paints a little bit of a different picture than maybe the overall charts do. So I think I'm going to use that as kind of a way to talk myself into some Boston tonight. They look a lot better here in the weighted team ratings, which uses a lot of the last 2 weeks and a lot of the last month of hockey. And the actual raw Wowies use a lot more of just the full season. So I'm going to put a little bit extra stock in the weighted team ratings to find my way to get to some Boston tonight. I think pretty easily. The highest upside line is Geeky, Lindholm, and Pasta. Obviously, seeing a decent chunk of ownership as well. 18,900. Pretty expensive, but not crazy. Boston, too, I think is pretty interesting as well, just as the value option here. We've seen a lot of success here from Zach as of late. I think he's got 10 points in his last 10 games, if I recall correctly. I think Lindholm's got 12 in his last 12. Arvidsson's got like 21 points in his last 27 games dating back to like November 1st. He's missed some time, obviously. So there's a pretty good floor here with Arvidsson, not so much with Zaka and company. But I think there's a reasonable amount of upside here for Boston, too. They've played really well as of late. The underlying metrics are actually marginally better than Boston won. The matchup is about the same. They're going to see a little bit more of that JT Miller line, which does struggle a little bit defensively, but so is the top line. So I think that both Boston 1 and Boston 2 are definitely in play here tonight. Boston 1 feels like the much higher upside line, but Boston 2 probably feels like the line I'm going to get to more just because I think they're obviously significantly easier to pair with a team like Edmonton. So a lot of value here on Boston 2. I like the floor. I like the one-off potential here with Victor Arvidsson. On the power play, it's fourth best. Not bad. Middle of the pack for tonight's 4-game slate. So yeah, I think there's reason to like, again, this top line fully correlated on that top unit gives a lot of high, upside breakout potential here on tonight's slate, fully correlated on that top line, and obviously a good matchup overall here at 5v5. So yeah, I stand by what I said earlier. Higher upside line, clearly Boston 1, but really good value, I think, on Boston 2, one of the best value lines on the slate, and seeing a decent chunk of ownership. We saw a hat trick from like was it who scored? Husnudinov scored a hat trick. I can't remember who had the other hat trick, but I don't know if I'm really going to get to Boston 3. The underlying metrics here are just downright terrible, even though they've scored 4.7 goals for per 60. Just awful metrics. So I don't think I'm going to get there. Similar with the Rangers' depth. Let's get to game number 2. We've got the Philadelphia Flyers and the New York Islanders. The Islanders, I saw a tweet today. They really got to just find their mojo again or something along those lines. And they have been playing pretty poorly as of late. The offensive, defensive metrics, the power play metrics, just awful. The Flyers have slipped a little bit defensively. And this is just XG. So like this has nothing to do with their goaltending. They've given up a lot more than they were earlier in the year, but still an above average defensive team. And like I said, Harrison's, at least giving you pause, like when you're targeting the Flyers, like you don't want to just full out just be like, all right, I'm all in on going up against Harrison because he's been so awful. I mean, he just beat Vegas lost in overtime to Utah, and then beat Colorado in his last 3 starts. I mean, pretty damn good. The outing against Colorado was sensational. 32 of 35 shots. He's 897 save percentage in those 3 games, but 3 very difficult opponents that he's played very well against. So it was easier to get to Minton when he had Pastor Geeky on his line. Yeah, 100%. And then you see that in the metrics. They've just plummeted without those guys. So yeah, I 100% agree there. So yeah, let's get to the matchups here. Really good matchups for the second and third line of the Flyers tonight. And I'm going to get to it here in a moment. The Islanders' top line tonight is going to be Max Shabanoff's going to move up there with Bo Horvat and Emil Heineman. And this is a time where I would usually let Zach kill some time while I do some research and pull up the actual numbers. It's about a 70-minute sample size of these 3 together. The defensive metrics are horrifically bad. Horrific. I didn't use it because it is a kind of small sample, so I didn't want to just completely nuke the charts with that awful sample, but just keep that in mind tonight, that this line's probably going to be awful defensively. So yeah, you get a line here in Philadelphia 2 and Philadelphia 3 that are going to see basically half their ice time in that matchup. I think there's a lot to like there. Now, the Noah Cates line I've talked about a lot, and it's a line that we used to go to. If you've watched the show frequently, we used to go to a lot for value relief, or salary relief, excuse me. Noah Cates always been kind of a fave. Bobby Brink. They're just not as good without Tyson Forrester. But in this matchup, I do think that I'm going to get there. They're just so cheap, 10,800. They're not really drawing a ton of ownership as a whole. Mishkov's seen about 10%, but as a whole, they're not seeing a lot, about 6% on average. So I don't love these offensive metrics. They've still managed to figure it out because Mishkov's talented. Brink can score. So I don't mind sprinkling them in. I do think that the second line's a little interesting tonight. And they're not going to see very much ownership. I mean, they'll see a decent chunk, but Barkey at 2,700, I think is a good play, good value option. Couturier, now that he's 3,300, I think he's a little bit more palatable. Like, you didn't want to play him when he's 4,200, 4,400 with no floor. Tippett's always solid. So I think that this line's pretty reasonable tonight as well. Both really strong value options, both lines that you can play with Edmonton. I think they're in really sneaky good spots tonight going up against this top line of the Islanders that just downright terrible defensively. So again, the metrics are actually much worse than you see here. Sorokin, obviously, kind of like the one concern that you would have when targeting the Flyers tonight. And then obviously the top line has been good for a long time now. Their matchup, they're going to see a little bit less of that first line. So their matchup's a little more tricky. They're going to see a lot more of the bottom 6, which is one good defensive line, one bad defensive line. So I think they're still going to be able to get there. I just feel better if I'm targeting the Flyers tonight, just going with the cheap guys, though, as opposed to paying up for that top line. And that ownership is obviously fairly high as well. So I feel a lot better about the second and third line tonight of the Flyers, using them as like a secondary stack to pair with one of my elite stacks, like the Edmonton Oilers, New York Rangers, some of those lines. So Tampa Bay, all those things. So we'll get to them in a little bit here. On the Islanders side of things, the third line grades out the best. They have the best matchup. The top 2 lines have very, very poor matchups, and it's easy to see why, right? Second and third line of the Flyers have been great defensively. Not a lot of offense here. I don't know why they broke up the Lee, Barzell, Duclair line. Like, they were humming offensively. I don't know why they would break that up, but yeah, I just don't really have a lot of interest in the Islanders with this current build. Duclair, Barzell, Holmstrom doesn't really do it for me. Lee, Pajot, Drouin doesn't really do it for me. Maybe a little bit of this top line, but they're in such a bad matchup. Like, I'll probably get to some Islanders tonight just because Harrison's getting the start, and I'm not going to just fully buy in that he's super back after 3 starts, but I do have concerns just about the way this Islanders team has performed this, as of late. This is a Flyers team that gets Ristolainen back tonight, helps the blue line. They have been good defensively this year. And yeah, like, even with bad goaltending, like, I could see the Islanders only racking up like 19 shots on goal tonight and being in real hot water. So a lot more interest for me coming on the Philadelphia Flyers side of things tonight, specifically their value. Sorokin also struggled against the Flyers recently. As much as I like Harrison, like stacking against Harrison, those Islanders lines are ugly. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about both of those. I can't pull it up right away. But a friend of mine let me know that apparently, like going back a few years, like these two teams have alternated beating each other like perfectly. Like every game, it's like Philly, Islanders, and the Flyers won the last one. So if you follow the trends, it is an Islanders win tonight. So if that helps, I haven't honestly done the research myself. I'm just trusting that has been the case as of late. But yeah, let me see if I can pull it up. Flyers, Islanders history. Let's see what we get here. Uh, let's see. Whoa, that is a tough website. Okay, moving on. If anybody else has that in the chat, let me know. Let's get to Tampa Bay and Utah. Oh wait, I skipped the power play report. My apologies. Uh, Not a whole lot there. Both teams really separating their power plays to even power play units. The good power play goes up against the good PK. Bad power play goes up against the bad PK. Not much there. The Flyers are hilarious. 7th best power play, and they converted at 16%. It's awful. Okay, the Lightning and the Mammoth. This is a really tricky game. Because yeah, both teams very, very good offensively, both teams very, very good defensively. I think the one thing that is super noteworthy about this game is the Tampa Bay injuries, man, are piling up. Up front, obviously no Braden Point. Gage Concalves, game time decision. Jack Finley expected to be back in. Nick Paul's questionable too. That can't be right. That's got to be an error. But then on the blue line, they could be without 4 of their original 6 defensemen tonight. Eric Chernak, questionable. Our boy Shara Eduardutus landed on IR yesterday. He's out. Crozier is expected to be back in tonight. He missed last game with an illness. But like, man, we're talking about no Hedman, no McDonough, no Lilberg, no Datus, no Cernak possibly. Like, man, they've overcome these injuries. Like, it's been incredible how they've managed without Hedman and McDonough basically all year. But like, hats off to guys like Moser and Radish for just carrying the load here. But man, this is starting to get to a point where it's like, how do you just keep overcoming it? Now, matchup wise on both sides here, it's going to be brutal because both teams are so good defensively. So this game is tough. I think the way I look at it is that, especially on, let's just start with the Tampa Bay Lightning, especially on the Lightning side, this top line, their offensive metrics are so good. I don't know if it matters how good the other team is defensively. They still grade out second best. They're 22,300. Now, I think the reason I've got a pretty sizable amount of interest in this line tonight is for the fact that Edmonton, all things being equal, should smash Anaheim tonight with Husso between the pipes. And they're chalk for a reason. But because they're so chalky, Tampa 1 is getting slightly overlooked. And they have, as bad of a matchup as it is, they have a ton of upside. And I do think that they can be a really sneaky play tonight. These offensive metrics are just bananas good. Let's take a little fine-tooth comb to these matchups. Going to see a lot of the second line and then kind of the bottom 2 lines. Second line for the Mammoth, good defensively. But the bottom 2 lines, not so good defensively. So I do think Tampa 1 can take advantage of it. It's a better matchup than maybe the 12.9 suggests. And 50% of their matchup is going to be tough. But the other 50%, not going to be so bad. So I think Tampa 1 can still get there. I think they're getting a little bit overlooked. If it was an easier matchup, I would probably talk about Tampa 2 a little bit. I have been impressed with the underlying metrics with no Braden Point and Jake Gensel just kind of doing it with 2 rookies. This matchup, I don't really think it's worth getting there. So yeah, and then I'm always going to mention Tampa 3 as a value because they're playing so much right now. Now, do they have offensive upside? Not really, but they can certainly hit their value at their price tag. And if you want to get real weird on a 4-game slate, it's a line that's 8K that's going to play like 15 minutes at 5v5 tonight. They play a ton. They're projected for more ice time than Tampa 1, which is bananas. Okay, now let's get to the Utah side of things. So this top line's underlying metrics are outstanding as well. They get Lawson Krause back tonight. The problem is they're going to see almost exclusively the Tampa third line, which has been very, very good defensively. It's the worst matchup on the slate. But with all those injuries on the blue line, with them being just $16,900, I think it's an interesting spot here. Not seeing a lot of ownership. The price tag seems really cheap for how good they are and how good they've been. I'm firing them up. I do not like the matchup with the Gord line. They've been nothing short of spectacular this year. One of the best shutdown lines in hockey. But at some point, man, like Chernak's one of their best defensive defensemen. At some point, this has got to catch up to you. So, I'm gonna fire Utah one up tonight. I think the price tag is just far too cheap. I think the ownership is very easy to get over the field on. So Utah one is in a very interesting spot tonight, and I think that hopefully they can take advantage of the injuries. And you know, the Lightning, for as good as they are defensively, right? Number one ranked 5. They just were in an 8-5 game the other night against the Blue Jackets. And so I don't think it's, you look at this game and you immediately think, ooh, two good defensive teams is going to be low scoring. I think there's the possibility there that it could be a high scoring game. And I think that's why it's worth taking a chance on. The other line I'm going to mention, as always, is Utah 3. Their matchup is marginally better than Utah 1, but not much. They are also going to see a decent amount of Gord, but they're going to see a little bit more of the top 6. And the top line specifically is the one that you want to at least face a little bit and get in a track meet with them a little bit. So, yeah, Utah 3 continues to be a really, really good value option. They've been outstanding. Carcone, McBain, Gunther, it's 13,400 to play that trio. Power play report tonight. The Tampa Bay Lightning in a pretty good spot tonight. The Utah Mammoth penalty kill has not been very good despite killing 80% of the PKs. But yeah, giving up a lot of chances. So decent power play matchup here for the Lightning as well. Just another reason to fire up that top line. You've got Kucherov, you've got Hagel, Darren Radish. I like that stack. That's probably it. The Utah power play has been just an absolute nightmare all year, and I don't expect them to get there tonight. Final game of the night. We got the Edmonton Oilers and the Anaheim Ducks. Excuse me, don't mind me. The Oilers, man, 4.0 implied total tonight. Very, very good offensively against a very bad defensive team. I will and have been saying as of late, credit to the Ducks. These injuries, they've been doing a pretty good job overcoming them, and they are starting to get better defensively. We might hate their line combinations from DFS, but it's helping this team. And surprisingly, the McDavid line has a pretty difficult matchup tonight. So if you're looking for a reason to fade the McDavid line tonight, it is that the matchup is relatively difficult. Mostly because they're going to see a lot of Anaheim 3, but they're also going to see a lot of Anaheim 2, which is very bad defensively. So, yeah, I'm not worried. The McDavid line basically matchup proof. They also have the number 2 power play advantage on the night. The Ducks PK actually has been doing an okay job limiting chances, but they aren't doing a very good job of limiting goals against. That's more a goaltending issue than anything. Luke Stostal has been spectacular as of late. We have Husso likely, and Joel Quenneville said yesterday that he's leaning towards starting Husso. I won't be shocked at all if Dostal goes again, honestly. But I hope, for my Edmonton ownership, I hope it's not the case. So yeah, the Oilers in a really, really good spot here on the power play. Obviously, no surprise there. Edmonton 2, also very interesting. I will say we don't know exactly how the lines are going to shake out here. Samamski's going to make his NHL debut here on the third line tonight, which is going to shuffle things about a little bit. So we're also going to get Kasperi Kapanen back in. And so it's unclear whether Kapanen or Roslovic will be on that second line with Draisaitl. I lean towards it being Kapanen. It's just kind of been the way that they were going before Kapanen got hurt and Leon left for Germany. So I do think it's going to be Kapanen. For safety reasons, if you want to build around Roslovic and then leave yourself the pivot option to get to Kapanen, I think that's fine too. Kapanen projected for an enormous amount of ownership at 20%. The Oilers as a whole, just massive ownership. Let's pull up the ownership by position here. So the forward ownership, the top 4 players in terms of forward ownership are McDavid, Kapanen, Nuge, and Leon, with Hyman not far behind as the 7th highest owned forward of the night. So it's an enormous amount of ownership. And Kapanen, $2,500 exposure to Leon, for sure. I think the other thing that's worth mentioning is this line had a lot of success Again, before Kapanen got hurt, before Leon left for Germany, now they're back together. I expect them to continue to find that success. Tonight, they are going to see about all of their ice time almost against the Anaheim Ducks top six, very bad defensively. So as much ownership as McDavid and company are seeing, I think it's very easy to get to Edmonton 2 as like, again, they're not seeing low ownership, but it is lower than you're going to get with Edmonton 1. And I don't mind this as a pivot option. And if you're trying to build with other quality lines, right? If you're building around Edmonton 1, you got to get very punty with that second stack. Where with Edmonton 2, you don't have to get as creative. And there are some other really good lines that we've already talked about. So I do like Edmonton 2 as a pivot option. I think this is, oh man, I almost compared them to the Rangers, and that would be doing them a disservice. But like it feels the same in which, with comparing them with the Bruins, where Edmonton 1 clearly has the highest upside, but Edmonton 2 is a very good value alternative to Edmonton 1, same as Boston 2 is to Boston 1 this evening. Just one ceiling seems considerably higher. So yeah, I don't know really what to say. I think it's super easy to get to Edmonton 1 and 2 tonight, the power play stack. Like, you're just gonna have to get creative with the rest of your lineup because they're so chalky. The third line doesn't have a very good matchup. I just don't think that I'm gonna get there tonight. The Ducks, boy, Granlund, Killorn, and Seneca have played extremely well. They continue to be very cheap. The matchup is slightly below average. The underlying metrics are slightly above average. I could see a world why you would want to click on them. Like, the Oilers haven't exactly been the sharpest as of late. They haven't been the stingiest as of late. So, like, I don't anticipate that Anaheim is going to go into Edmonton and win this hockey game tonight, but I don't think it's out of the question. And then their last two games, 6 goals against the Penguins, 5 goals against the Capitals. I think there's a world in which the Ducks can generate some offense. I'm just not overly confident at it. I'm not overly confident in them, especially at this ownership. I think there's better low-owned plays tonight. Ryan Poehling becoming a nice value option, playing with Cutter. I don't mind that second line. I don't mind this first line. They, pretty reasonable value alternative tonight as well. So I could see the reason you'd want to get there. I just don't imagine this is a great spot. The power play matchup is bad. The 5-5 matchups are, all below average. It just feels like kind of a get right game for Edmonton, if I'm being honest with you. And yeah, it just kind of seems like a bit of a letdown spot here for the Ducks, who, to their credit, with missing 3 of their top 6 forwards, right? Like, no McTavish, no Leo, and no Troy Terry. Yeah, 3 of their top 6 forwards. I mean, credit to them, but does feel like a bit of a tough spot here. They've won 7 in a row. This is their 3rd game in 4 nights. So, yeah. It does feel like a bit of a letdown spot, and it does feel like a get right spot for the Oilers. If I'm wrong, oh well, so be it. No faith in my Ducks. I think I've shown a lot of faith in the Ducks in the past, and they've won 7 in a row with nobody in the lineup. I do think that it's got to come to an end eventually, and this does feel like a spot in which that will happen here. Jari and Jari's been hit or miss, but he doesn't worry me too much from an Oilers perspective. I think he's fine. Okay, let's get to the defensemen and the goalies. On the blue line tonight, I already talked about it. Really like Gavrikov. Obviously, going to see a lot of ownership. I think JJ Moser is super interesting tonight as well, right? We just talked about how many injuries there are. Like, he is going to play a ton. Plus, Sergachev got traded for Moser. Bit of a revenge narrative for both of them. I think this is a great spot for Moser at 3K. He's going to play an enormous amount of minutes, and he's not really seeing that much ownership. Hampus Lindholm has done a really nice job as of late. Really solid floor, 3K. I like both of them as solid punt options tonight. I think Braden Schneider is a decent alternative to Gavrikov. Obviously doesn't have as high of a ceiling without the power play exposure, but he's playing big minutes. Carson Soucy's going to come out tonight for trade protection reasons as well. Maybe an extra minute or so for Schneider at 3,300. He always grades out as a pretty good value option. I don't mind some of these Flyers defensemen, right? Cam York's been good. Ristolainen's been good. Drysdale's always been great as a solid value option as of late on power play 1, seeing 13% ownership tonight. It seems other projections are higher on Drysdale than I am. Like he never grades out amazing for me, but he's the power play one quarterback. Even if it's not the best power play at $3,100. And to be honest with you, power play one, power play two really doesn't mean much in Philadelphia, right? There's two power play units that are different from each other. But yeah, I think still those Flyers, Risto 3,500, Sanheim 3,500, York 3,900, Drysdale 31. Like they all make some sense this evening. I think some of these shot blocking defensemen from the Ducks make some sense. Lacomb's even just too cheap at 4,900 in his own right, but Gudas 2,700, Minikoff at 3,100 is fine. Who else do we want to talk about tonight? Let's sort by usage. See if we're missing anybody. Adam Pelech, 3,200 has been solid. Nikita Zadorov's a game time decision, but plays big minutes at 2,800. Who is the field getting to as value options? So Drysdale, Moser, Schneider, Lindholm. Okay, all guys mentioned. Lower eye peak also seen a decent chunk as well. Top end defenseman tonight. I mean, Evan Bouchard's on a heater. Darren Radish, if JJ Moser's going to play a ton of minutes tonight. Darren Radish is going to play a ton of minutes tonight. Not seeing a lot of ownership tonight. I think it's a good spot for Darren Radish again tonight. Matthew Schaefer, I don't know about you guys. I just can't get him right. When I play him, he does nothing. When I don't play him, he's like the best defenseman, rookie defenseman in NHL history. So I can't seem to get him right. I don't know why McAvoy's price tag tonight. Wallman's coming up. Gavrikov, yes, still on board. Let's get to the goalies. Make it a little bit bigger so you can see it better. Okay. Tristan Jarry grades as the number one goalie to target tonight. I don't feel great about that, to be honest with you. At $8,400, probably not going to see a ton of volume. He's the highest percentage, implied win percentage on the night. Yeah, I think he's a safe-ish play, but $8,400, pretty penny to pay. Vasilevsky, I think, is also relatively risky. Like, yes, that game could be low scoring. I think both goalies could be viable in that one. But with all those defensive injuries, I think he's makes me a little nervous at $8,200, but he is the highest on goalie in the slate. I think he's an okay option. Korpisalo, I mean, the Rangers don't score on home ice, and Korpisalo's been playing great. He should see some of the lowest ownership on the night. I think he's a good contrarian option tonight. He's projected for the second most volume of the night as well. Sorokin's always sees a lot of ownership. $7,400 Sorokin's hard to pass up. It's a lot easier to play $7,400 Sorokin than it is $8,000 Harrison. Jonathan Quick at 7,600, no. Vamilka at $7,200, I think is super viable. I think he's a great GPP play. Huso, excuse me. Huso might be like the biggest chalkbuster in the history of DFS tonight. So, and then I'm assuming Dostal is the same price, right? Like he's got to be. If Dostal just randomly he is. If Dostal just randomly gets the start, I mean, boy, what a pivot. I don't mind getting to a little bit of the Anaheim goalie tonight, just in the off chance. I mean, Nick was mad that I didn't no faith in his Ducks, and here I am, minutes later. I missed the New York Flyers breakdown. Were you more on the Islanders or Flyers side? Flyers side, particularly just their depth. I like the second and third lines for value tonight. Favorite goalie tonight. Goalie's a bit tricky. I just said I'm on the Flyers side, but I don't mind Sorokin. Obviously, going to see a lot of ownership. Korpisalo, I don't know if it's like, I don't want to buy in, right? But he has looked great as of late. He's outplaying Swayman. I think Korpisalo might be my favorite goalie in this slate, as scary as that is. Vamilka, I think, is interesting. Vasilevsky's fine. And then Huso's just chalk bust city. And if Dostal gets a start, you're laughing. Okay, let's get to a hat trick pick challenge. Boy, it has just been hat trick city in the NHL as of late. And just to recap, Oilers are in a great spot. I think both Lightning, Tampa 1 and Utah 1 are in great spots. Tampa 1 in a great pivot option spot with all the ownership coming down on Edmonton. Utah 1 a little bit less confident in. It's a very difficult matchup, but with all the Tampa Bay injuries on the blue line, I think it's possible. New York 1 is definitely better than New York 2. Edmonton 2 is a great pivot spot, even though they're still seeing high ownership. I definitely like the Philadelphia depth better. I like Boston 1, but Boston 2 is a great value option. And Utah 3, as always, is a great value option. A little bit wishy-washy on the Ducks tonight. Same with the Islanders with these line combinations, a little tricky. Hat trick pick tonight. Give me, and if you want to participate in today's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. If your player scores a hat trick, get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. You can pick up a DFO sweater like this one. Looks great. Shame no LA Columbus game, there would have been a lot of value options there. Would have been a great. I just love playing the Blue Jackets. So yeah, I agree. It sucked. Especially because I told everybody to pick up Mason Marchment and all the Blue Jackets this week in season-long fantasy and pick up the Kings as well, like Alex Laferriere and Corey Perry, and they all got hurt, or they all got canceled. So, unfortunate. Anyways, back to the hat trick pick. I'm going to go 0 Owen Tippett. I feel pretty good about that Flyers depth tonight. It's obviously off the board, but maybe a sneaky $5,100 Owen Tippett hattie tonight. That's my hat trick pick. Thank you so much for tuning in. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a show. Shout out to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium, all you got to do is go to the comment section of the video on YouTube. Sorry, let me see. Let's see if I can do something fun here. I don't know how to do anything. Okay, here you go. This will be interesting. Never done this before. This is like a Inception moment. But yeah, there you go. Here we go. I got all this. We got Discord. We got Roto Grinders, $20 off. You got 20% off Action Network Premium. And hey, there's me. It's a real Inception moment. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you back here. Zach will be back. We got a very big week here at the DFO DFS Hockey Report. As long as my wife doesn't go into labor this week, we're going to have lots of shows. It is 10 games tomorrow, 15 games on Thursday. So should be a fun week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sean says Leon Draisaitl Hattie. That is great, but make sure you drop it in the comment section, not the live chat. So head over to the comment section as soon as this wraps up. Drop it in there so that I can don't miss anything. Thanks, Brock. You're welcome, Nick. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, good luck. Cheers. Peace.